introduce our speaker today. Today we have Anthony Dupree with us. He is our Chief Information Security Officer. He joined Novitex in January 15th and brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to our organization. Prior to joining Novitex, he worked at McGraw-Hill Education as well as Elizabeth Arden, Toys R Us, and Toys R Us. Before I turn it over to Anthony, he's going to take some time to walk you through some of the trends that we're seeing in the information security space, as well as some initiatives that we're putting in place here at Novitex. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Anthony.
Thanks, Caroline, and thank you for joining our webinar today. Before we get started, I'd like to just touch on Novitex and what we do. So in Novitex, we are a document outsourcer provider. We're not an information security firm. We work with our clients and other security firms to ensure that the security solutions that we produce are embedded into the various different functions that we provide for our clients. Look at us as your data custodian, and as such, view my team as an extension of your security team. So let's get started. Next slide, please. These are the major trends that we've come up with that are impacting various businesses and different business verticals. And we'll talk about this in great detail. So we're going to talk a little bit about the internet and how it impacts your business, as well as the compliance and regulations and policies. And also talk about a little bit about the shortages of resources out here within information security. And also, more importantly, talking about the breaches and incidents that impact the various businesses. So with the internet has really changed the landscape in business functions for many companies, particularly in the use of cloud technologies. As you can see here, the percentage of use of the cloud technology in their applications and infrastructure is well over 60%. At Novitex, we use a private and secure cloud framework to enable our customers to know that their data is secure within our infrastructure. With the cloud with the cloud solutions or cloud technology, there causes a severe demand for customers or organizations to have always a connected employee. Meaning that customers want their employees to reach data at any time, anywhere, to make those appropriate decisions to support the business line. As you can see here, you'll see in the next 5 years, we're expecting to see over 50 billion devices connected to the internet in some fashion, some form. Again, we're seeing a rise in demand for mobile solutions to access data, and Novitex is engaged in those areas to support you as a client. With that demand and change in the landscape, it also produced a number of security incidents, and incidents year over year are starting to increase, as you know. At least at a minimum of 48% year over year. The average course of corporate data breaches has increased from last year for 15% at a cost of $3.5 million. Just from another example, companies in the U.S. and Germany are paying respectively anywhere from $215 to $246 per compromised record, and that's really resulting because of lack of security controls and or lack of security programs within our infrastructure. As you can see here on the right-hand screen, you see the pie chart here, and you'll see the emphasis of the hacker or hacking is part of the primary means of some of these incidents. These are sophisticated hackers that have deep level experience and able to get into your infrastructure. However, one of the things we do see a lot from a simpler approach is using phishing, email phishing, to get access to your infrastructure as a whole. So these are the major contributing factors we see over time that are going to continue to grow. And as you can see here, there are other common techniques that hackers use, but the primary means of the hackers today are using emails to get into your infrastructure and actually having your employees open these emails and unload the malicious payload through an attachment and allowing that to compromise your infrastructure. With that, moving on to with that response to all these security incidents, and we see an increased level of regulations across all the industries. And the cost is really, really clear, average of almost 8% for a manufacturing vertical today to deploy and to implement and to maintain all the regulations that you see in front of you. And some of these regulations that you see in front of you on the right-hand side of the screen is really a subset of many other regulations around security, whether it's in high-tech or HIPAA, which is for your medical, PCI for credit cards, safe harbor for transported data. So again, you'll see that, and as you can see here also, the Affordable Care Act has really produced 109 regulations that affect security. So out of those 109 regulations, there's a myriad of other controls that I have to, as a CISO, ensure to redeploy that in our infrastructure to protect our customer data. This is an example. And this is synonymous across all industries. We're just using it as an example for in the healthcare space. With that, with the regulations, with the change in the landscape, and the threats out there, there is a severe shortage of talent. And I got to tell you that it's very, very, very difficult within the space right now for us. As you can see, each year is doubling. The demand is doubling each year as it passes. So from my perspective, I am very, very fortunate to have a great team of folks on my side that help me actually maintain the security program that we have. But I also want to bring up to this internet to offset this. A lot of the schools, colleges, and universities are now introducing information security degrees to offset this projected shortage. So it's something that is coming. We're hoping that will offset some of these gaps that we see. But again, growing the talent is a key factor in any security program. So how do we come back to these pain points and mitigate, the risk and to protect your data? Well, at Novitex, one of the things we have done is strategically invested into areas to improve security. So information security comprises of three different areas. Technology, people, and process. There's not one particular section or area that will secure or improve your security alone. It takes all three areas to improve and to maintain a robust security program. My concern right now is that a lot of companies today are not putting in the significant investment into the information security program to offset the many of the risks that you see about that has been going on for the last 2 to 3 years. So that is very much a major concern. But here in Novitex, we are committed to improve our security posture on a continuous basis. And with that, we're going to talk a little bit about each of these different areas. But before we do that, the key areas that's driving security programs are the ones that you see in front of you. These 6 areas will allow you to make sure that the security programs are going to be adaptive, continuous, and maintain the security posture ultimately. So, for instance, we're talking about risk and compliance. Under Novitex, under my leadership at Novitex, we have invoked a continuous compliance program. As you saw in the previous slide when we talked about the regulations, I had respectively most of the regulations I'm responsible for Novitex. So we have to have a continuous compliance program that allow us to maintain a real-time analysis of the state of compliance for our client data and for internal data as well. With that, you can't, with any program, you have to have policy standards and procedures, and we have done that. That's pretty much a given in any program. We also look at, training as a key factor in a security program. So one of the things we do here is we have an annual training requirement for all our employees today. We also have functional training for our employees as well for specific verticals. So for instance, in the healthcare industry, we have an example of HIPAA training, security training for those employees that are specifically handling medical data. On the credit card and financial data, there's FISMA, there's PCI. So we do have a vigorous program in place to allow us to ensure and to give our clients a great deal of confidence that we are training our personnel. With that, in addition to that, we also put in a monthly security tips in our newsletter to allow us to disseminate best practices for our employees so they know really what to look for and to avoid possible compromising issues such as email phishing, social engineering, getting unknown unsolicited calls, to ensure that they understand what procedures they need to take. With that, we also have the core of the security program in itself really focuses on operational and technical controls. And those controls are your tools. So at Novitex, we have a series of tools and operational processes to monitor the data on a continuous basis. And that's something that has been a great selling point for us. It makes us unique in the sense that we are watching our data, watching your data on a continuous basis. Along with that, we have an incident response plan, and I find that a lot of organizations don't even have an incident response plan. So I think incident management response is critical to a security program, and here at Novitex we do have that. And I would recommend highly, if you don't have those programs, to look to other industry partners to help you build those programs, because it's essential to know how to react to any type of compromising issues or potential breaches. So let's talk about a little bit about the technology to improve security. As you can see here, these are some of the areas that will help you improve the security posture. And at Novitex, this is what we're doing today. Looking at identity management, ensuring that we know who has access to the data today, what kind of privilege they have. Are they authorized to have the right, to look at the data? And if they don't, then we have a detective mechanism in place to investigate those issues. Web application security is another key factor. For a lot of public-facing applications, as you know, using a web application firewall and using a denial service that allow you to protect your web applications from being attacked from outside hackers. Without saying you need to have a policy enforcer to really look at all the different policies for different customers and making sure that those regulations are in the form of a policy enforcer and auditing tools so that we can give our customers a real-time sense of where's the state of compliance for their infrastructure today. Along with that, we have to get out there and having some type of intrusion detection and preventive technologies that allow us to ensure that if we can prevent any of the bad actors from getting into our infrastructure today. So that's something I think is very important for any infrastructure, no matter what organization you're in. Having those technologies will ward off the bad hackers and reduce your risk within your infrastructure. Along with that, you still have to have network monitoring and having some threat intelligence to understand what's out there in the wild today and comparing that against your infrastructure to provide a state of security for your business leaders. It's important for us as security practitioners to ensure that we give a state of security. We can tell them that we're continuous monitoring their infrastructure and their respective client data, whether they're internal or external, ensuring that we have bring a great deal of confidence in becoming an enabler for the business. So as you can see on the left-hand screen, these are some of the areas that I think we should, along with the ability to improve the infrastructure. Malware is kind of an interesting topic that a lot of people are not aware of. They think antivirus, as an example, is the only defense. A lot of times in email, especially in email phishing, antivirus will not necessarily pick up a malicious payload because it may not have the signature. So you need some type of malware solution that will resolve or look at that attachment in an email scenario and see if it's something that has an executable file, for example, and prevent that from doing bad things and containing that data and alerting you on that. I also recommend looking at patch management. A lot of companies do not do a good job of patch management. That's part of looking at when you're doing vulnerability scans in your infrastructure, for example. The response is to have a very aggressive patch management program based upon the risk of your organization. Log management is without saying. I think that log management is kind of a basic function in information security, and we at Novitex, we have that in place. And you know, if you read the Rising breach reports and HP's threat assessment reports, they all talk about the same thing. The data, the logs are the key function in evaluating any type of breach. And so it's so important for your server environment to go to a centralized logging system and be able to record the various activities going on to your infrastructure so you can address those risks and address any possible compromises. And we talked about identity management, knowing the who, how they get into your infrastructure, are they authorized, and they have their appropriate access. From a process standpoint, we at Novitex take the position of looking at cybersecurity framework, which was instituted by the White House a couple of years back, within the last 2 years, and it covers 5 different areas, as you can see on your screen. I've taken this approach because it's a very comprehensive approach. It streamlines all of the requirements for various clients that we have today. And I believe that you'll see in the next slide how it really layers into the compliance model. As you can see here, these are the regulations that you see in front of you. These regulations are just a subset of what I'm responsible at Novitex. And you can see how they layer, how each of the functional areas, how they fall into. So basically they fall in every area of the cybersecurity framework. So for instance, when we look at HIPAA, for example, part of that requirement is understanding the asset and where the data resides at. And if you look at it from a detect perspective, how do I monitor that data for continuous monitoring? And then when you look at it from the protection tower, you're looking at access controls, which we talked about a little bit earlier, really talking about data security. How are you putting the detective and preventive controls in place to ensure that no one can get to that data? And response and cover is really part of the incident response management. And how do you plan for that? Are you doing tabletop exercise? Are you doing incident response reviews? And then more importantly, how do you improve your response posture? How do you, and it goes back to communication and training your personnel within those areas. At Novitex, we leverage the defense and depth approach. This is our core security strategy. And as you can see here, it's really about having a multi-layer methodology that allows us to ensure that if a hacker tries to penetrate the first layer, there are multiple layers where they must reach any of our client data. In addition to this, we put in different types of controls in place, such as firewalls, IDSs, malware solutions, but we also encrypt your data as well. So even if they can get to the data, they can't read it. It's almost like a triple layer of protection. Data at rest, we protect it, data in transit, and also data in memory. And then more important, to overlay that, is really to overlay those 3 areas, you're having strong access controls to ensure that the proper people within Novitex has access to the data. It definitely is, most CISOs don't manage physical security today. And physical security information security are traditionally ran by different teams. They work very closely. And at Novitex, I have the responsibility of managing physical security as well. I believe that the physical security theft is still an ongoing issue in most organizations, and Novitex is also included in that. So some of the must-haves are definitely putting badge readers in our secure areas. That's something we've already instituted on our new facilities. We have video surveillance and watching what people are doing and recording that on a 24/7 basis, and having trained officers. We partner with other organizations to give us those personnel to have that physical presence there to also handle any crisis management situations in our facilities, and also just making sure that people are going to the right place and there's no unauthorized individuals in our facilities or hanging out in our facilities as well. We want to make sure that also in our, just a kind of a note that we use with a good practice that we've instituted, in our secure areas, our employees are not permitted to take any personal belongings such as purses and electronic devices, and this is really to support our customers and making sure that data leakage doesn't happen within those secure areas. When we look at talent, really finding the right talent and the right security guard is key to any organization. And the things I focus on really is about education, about experience, and certification. They go hand in hand. And I'm very fortunate to have a team that have all three. And it's almost rare that you have that in my years of experience. When I do interview people or trying to join my team, I'm a technical guy. I come from a networking background, been in the business for a very long time, as Caroline noted, and I ask very detailed questions. A lot of people want to get into security. They want to be security, professionals, but they need to have the basics. When I ask questions on what is the difference between TCP/IP model versus OSI model, what are the differences? And they don't have those appropriate responses. It begs for me it causes me to pause to really look at them a little deeper and see if they're the right fit for my organization. That goes into questions of making sure people write whatever they put in their resume, they can really talk 2 or 3 levels down in detail regarding their abilities within security. And there's something the tip that we, at Novitex, that we're actually going to institute, and I definitely want to recommend it to you as clients, is to, start an internship program focused on information security to help the shortage that you saw in the previous slides. And that's something we're going to be doing this summer with an 8-week, 10-week program to bring on people who are interested in security and actually training them in those areas. And they'll become the future workforce that we need to continue to neutralize and defeat the hackers out there today. As anything, with your business needs, you should consider working with a security firm. And while Novitex, we're definitely not a security-centric organization, we are, that's not our core business, but we work very, very closely with our various experts in areas of security to support the client's needs in increasing, maintaining our security posture. With that, we're a little bit talking about people, and it goes without saying, it goes hand in hand, training your folks. At Novitex, this is what we do. We have a security awareness program that we are required, as I stated earlier. And I also talked about a little bit about having security tips out there to give through your newsletters to just give people a visibility and understanding about security. And with the right information, it will limit that risky behavior, such as opening up emails from unknown folks or opening up attachments that are really not business related, and it causes other issues. But you really got to talk about your developers, and many companies have application developers in developing their applications. And what I recommend very clearly when we institute in our organization is secure coding, and showing that people, when they write code, is in a secure way. You also need to have peer review when you're developing code through your software development lifecycle. And using OWASP as a standard to have best practices. And OWASP stands for Open Web Application Security Project, and is a consortium of folks who are looking to bring best practices for web applications, and that's very key. We use at Novitex, we're using the areas to ensure that our applications are secure and protected, and also making sure that we're best in class when it comes to security. When working with a document also, these are some of the questions you should be asking those individuals. How do you protect the data? at Novitex, we protect your data by encryption, by having secure transport such as VPN across between you and us. Also making sure that we have preventative controls in place such as IDSs and malware solutions. We have antivirus on our various systems to ensure that we isolate and protect your data. And this is what I make you aware that we isolate each client that we have. They're not only protected through encryption, but they are virtually isolated from each client. So everybody's in there sort of like their own container from the time it leaves your location to us. And as we process and manage your data, it's always in an encrypted state. And some of the questions you can ask as well as I would ask is, do they have a dedicated team? We have a dedicated team at Novitex. We also, again, work with different partners such as Verizon, HP, and other companies to ensure that we are putting the right security tools in place and services to support your need as customers, because your data is an asset, much like your phone, your car, your health, and we take a personal view of it. And again, it's all about what kind of investments that the companies are making to protect your data. And that's something that you should ask any outsourcing provider, no matter what they are. They should be able to tell you that, and it's something we do today, as I just mentioned. And also, what regulation they are into. I mean, we have a myriad of regulations that you have as clients. And here at Novitex, we cover all of them. And when I first got here, I did an analysis of all the regulations that we have. And those regulations were pointed out throughout the presentation. And those controls, we did an analysis. There was about 15,000 controls that I have to manage year in, year out. So we're actively engaged and supporting those various regulations by using the NIST cybersecurity framework that it gives us and enable us to streamline all of the controls and apply the appropriate process, technology to support and to comply with those controls. So here, this pretty much is my presentation today. And the one thing I would like to add before we start Q&A is that from my perspective, I take data protection personally. I was a victim of identity theft a couple of years ago. So from that, it really made me really think about information security, and I took a pledge that I will learn as much as I can about security and be able to protect my clients' data, because I believe that I'm an extension of your organization. So with that said, believe that at Novitex we are going to protect your data on a continuous basis. We'll monitor who has access to your data, and be able to. We are an invisible technology and an enabler for the business. So I feel that if you have any questions, any concerns, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. And I'm going to turn this over to Caroline for Q&A. Thank you.
Thanks, Anthony. So if anyone has questions, please enter them into the question box section. With that, we have our first question. I have previously heard about Novitex's cloud-enabled framework. Can you discuss what security measures you have in place to mitigate the risk of using cloud technology?
That is a great question. Many of our clients are concerned about that. So one of the things, we've done a multi-tiered approach, as you saw in the slide up today. One of the things we do, we also have very, very strong access controls to ensure that we not only know who has access to the data, we monitor who has access to the data, and we do a monthly check on their privileges and making sure that based on a job function, are they accessing the appropriate data and supporting that particular customer. We also have preventative and detective technologies that we spoke about throughout the presentation, such as IDSs, intrusion detection systems, web application firewalls. We're also using regular firewalls, both internal and external, to ensure that we have a great sense of understanding of where our security posture is, and continue to review new technologies to enable us to protect your data.
Great. The next question is, how does Novitex manage supporting clients across highly regulated industries?
Well, that's another great question. That is a sensitive point for a lot of our clients today. So we work very, very closely with our clients in understanding their particular requirements under their regulation body of work, so pool of regulations. Then we take those regulations and apply the appropriate controls using in this framework and working very closely with our solution team to ensure throughout the design and implementation process that the security is in place, is developed, and is part of the deployment package. And then once that happens, then my team also takes another step and maintain and monitor that infrastructure on a continuous basis to ensure that not only the controls are being met, but are being monitored on a real-time basis.
Great. To piggyback off of that last question, Novitex supports many different organizations across different verticals, but each organization has different needs. When Novitex goes into a new project with a client, what does Novitex do to ensure that the project is secure?
That's a great question. One of the things we do is when we engage a client, one of the things we have a very engaging conversation with our clients and showing that having a conversation with their information security team to ensure that we are meeting their particular, we're an extension of their security program, their security organization. So as such, we need to understand what that is. With that, we take that information, as I stated earlier, and incorporate that into the solution matrix or processes and make sure that that is implemented to the specification for our clients, and then report back to the client, letting them know that the security program is being deployed and implemented within that solution.
Mm-hmm. Great. So if we have any more questions, please submit them into the question box. Let's see, it looks like we have one more question. Is Novitex certified by the government to scan and hold personal information? Well,
that question is an interesting question, great question. Yes, we are certified in different bodies that we just talked about, whether it's ISO. In this particular question, I think it would be more of a FedRAMP certification. As you, I don't know if you know, but Novitex uses IBM software, which is currently going under their FedRAMP certification. So they're just finishing that work now. So we are working towards that and making sure that the FedRAMP certification process is a very long and arduous process. It's about 18 months to get completed. So Novitex is aggressively working with IBM to ensure our application meets those type of standards. In other bodies and other regulations, we are definitely certified in those areas as well.
I think that is our last question for today. So I just want to take a moment to thank all of our attendees for joining us. And as Anthony mentioned earlier, if you have any additional questions that come to mind later on, please don't hesitate to reach out to him directly. With that, that ends our session today. Thanks so much.